The Marinade.
There's no O in Marinade. Let's try it one more time. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
The Marinade.
Marinade.
Bone marinade. The
That's
Marinade.
The Marinade. With Jason Earle.
I remember when we were kids, we'd go running through the grove.
Welcome to The Marinade with Jason Earle, a free-flowing conversation about the creative process with creative people. This is episode 33, and my guest is Abby Owens, singer, songwriter, guitar player, hilarious, and thoughtful person. We're at Spirit of the Suwannee Music Park for Suwannee Spring Reunion. Abby just played an early set and then agreed to sit down for a while. We secure a spot near the river at a kind of pavilion of sorts with a screened-in back porch and a table and some chairs. 2 hours earlier, she roused the festival zombies from their slumber with a festival-stealing set. I've got a head full of questions after devouring her 2010 Jason Isbell-produced record, Indian Town, and seeing that incredible morning set. This was a wonderful conversation, and I'm honored to bring it to you. Ladies and gentlemen, Abby Owens.
Packing oranges till the sun went down and chasing those honeybees. And I remember everything, and I know that it makes me. I remember everything, and I know that it makes me.
Check.
Playing in the woods, you can start a fire. Don't do the fire thing.
Dance for us. Hey. All right,
Do
Abby.
you want me to hold this microphone?
Yeah, it's best if you hold it. Just like that. Yep.
Okay. Did I do it right?
Yeah, you're perfect at this.
Great.
Yeah.
It's my first time.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a little tight.
You're a natural.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's gonna get worse. This is just the beginning.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That is how we start all the interviews, though.
That's how we should start all the interviews.
That's how every single one of these
Perfect.
begins.
Okay, good.
We only speak in innuendo. The whole thing. This show's not called The Marinade. It's called Innuendo.
Perfect.
Yeah. Now.
Perfect.
And you're in. Yeah. It's your show now.
It's my show.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Man, your set was amazing.
Thank you.
Gosh, y'all sounded great. It was so
Thanks.
much fun. Early morning set. And it's so cool. You know, we're at Suwannee. We're at Spring Reunion. And it's like, I've been to, I don't know how many of these, 10 years of these, right? And those 11 o'clock sets or those morning sets are kind of tricky. People are, the folks who stayed up till 7 a.m. or whatever aren't stirring
They're
yet.
not. They're nothing.
But you know what you get? You get the people who are really there to hear music.
Right.
And I don't know if you could feel it, but everybody was locked into y'all. I mean, totally locked in.
It was interesting. There was some sort of magnetism happening. A couple songs in, it's like the swell began, and people were coming out. It's like zombies walking up. It was pretty amazing. I just kind of like collectively, slowly hearing something from across the way, and being drug into it. We could feel it for sure. It was amazing. It was amazing. So, like you said, something about those morning performances. It's like there's a little bit of exhaustion there, and a little bit of tiredness.
Yeah.
Which almost brings out something a little bit deeper than maybe you would have played at a later time that you're more comfortable. It's almost, that tiredness shuts off maybe something you overthink. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
So you access maybe a deeper emotional feel to what you're doing. So you're like, I'm tired. It's in the morning, and this is it.
Just like instead of overthinking,
Right.
you don't have a chance to overthink it.
You're too tired.
You're
too.
just bringing it down here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I would have processed it like that. That's really
Yeah.
interesting that came through. I mean, gosh, you just have this incredible voice in your.
Thank you.
So much I want to talk about, but there's something that you get out of that guitar that I love watching you play.
Wow. Thank you.
I absolutely
Yeah.
love watching you play.
Thanks.
And like that there's something about, and it's so fun to watch people who I feel like if I just heard you're playing, I would be able to recognize it.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely it does. I think it's like anyone's voice, There's a lot of guitar players in this world. There are a dime a dozen. A lot of them, play a lot of the same riffs. They learn on the same songs, so you kind of have that common ground as far as sound goes across guitar players. But every now and then you come across somebody that's like, I always wanted to play like Richie Havens,
Mm-hmm.
that crazy percussive finger style it's unmistakably him.
Yeah.
And like Verlin Thompson.
Yeah.
When he starts picking, there's a certain way he goes about these licks that is just undeniably signature him.
Right.
So for you to say that about my playing, thank you.
And for sure.
Thank you.
I mean, you're welcome. And I love that. I love to be able to put all that together. I'm always interested in the balance, right? So like for you, are you consistent, because you write great songs too, so you got the whole package, and it's just so interesting because so often someone is excellent with lyrics or can really play the guitar or and can kind of dabble in the other things, but you put it all together. And I wonder, for you in your process, are you focusing on continuing to grow as a guitar player? Are you focusing on continuing to write great songs, or are you just finding time for all of it?
Because I do it every day, I think I have no choice but to improve on all of those things. I get bored really easily. And so that's why I never play the same song twice. That's why I'm constantly going for things. So I think, it's not necessarily a focus as much as it is I'm really bored. And I just want to go for it. So I just try it. And if I land something, I land it, So that's vocally with lyrics. I try to be fearless in my approach to most of the things that I do regarding art. I think when we limit ourselves through fear, or what we think our moms might think of a lyric, or what would you want your grandma to hear this? It's like, well, is it you? And if it is, don't apologize for it.
The truth.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Like getting at the truth.
Unapologetically being real. And so that's what I think my approach to what I do is just, here you are.
Yeah.
This is what I got. This is what it's going to be. So I don't know if it's necessarily a focus on improving those things as much as it's just part of the deal.
Wow.
It just kind of happens. I don't know if I'm getting better, if it's just changing.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't know.
So what does that look like on a daily basis? You just mentioned off mic that, you're having your coffee till noon or whatever. Are you writing during that morning time? Are you writing every day?
Cutting back to playing at 11 in the morning, I like writing my songs in the morning because the brain is off.
Right.
You're not quite awake.
Huh.
And so you're not cluttered by your schedule. You're not cluttered by what you've done all day and the experiences you've had and the energy you've picked up walking around this world, right? You're in your comfort zone. You're in your little space, and you wake up, and then that's like where I access, I think, the cleanest and most honest of thoughts.
Yeah.
Is before it gets dirty,
Oh, that's such a great point. I mean, I definitely prefer to write and create in the morning.
Yeah.
But I don't think I really processed it as not having been cluttered by all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Because we do end up, that's so interesting. Because you're not tense in the morning.
No.
Right, unless you drank too much. But if you're not, you're not tense in the morning typically.
Right.
I'm just like, it's a fresh day. And you
start over every day.
Anxieties of the day aren't there.
So you got a clean plate. So it's, and I think that's the easiest time for me to process what's going on in the brain so far. I mean, if I have a thought, then I explore that, and it's not, I haven't been dragged through the day and bringing everything with me to that paper. It's just, it's a clear space in the morning.
So it is physically pen to paper for you, or pencil to paper?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But it's not, I usually have a guitar in my lap and this on my knee. Like, it happens at the same time. Melodies and lyrics for me, I'm a word painter. So I don't necessarily prefer to write lyrics and then bring it to music because I think the music is the feeling and the words are the description, right?
Right.
So if I derive lyrics from a feeling.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense, yeah.
So it's like, you wear a sweater for cold weather. I'm going to write this lyric for this feeling of this music.
Right. Is it coming through, are you waking up with the idea? Or are you sitting down to do the process and then it's coming out?
Sometimes, as a songwriter, and this is my job, sometimes I do have to carve out some time and say, okay, I need to sit down and write this song. And sometimes that's successful and sometimes it's not. It's tough to force it.
Sure. But sometimes you got to get some of that stuff out in order to get through to the good stuff.
Sometimes.
Sometimes you got to get through that process of, like, I've been writing something recently that I just can't figure out where to go with it.
Right.
And I think I just need to scrap it. But I think my ego isn't allowing me to scrap it. It's like I'm still thinking, because I knew there was a nugget there. That's good. There's something in the essence of it that's good. The idea is good. I'm just not executing it.
Yeah,
It's just not coming out.
It's tough, and sometimes that's where that magical bridge that was unexpected pops out. It's songwriting is interesting.
Do you have anything that you do to get past those moments, or do you just accept them? Like, if you're stuck, do you have any process that you have to help you get through it?
Say mid-song stuck?
Yeah, let's say you're starting writing a song, right? Let's say you've got a verse and a chorus maybe, and you don't know where to go.
I'll leave it alone and I'll revisit it. If it's really something that will resonate with me, then that's resonating with me at the moment, and I'm frustrated I can't finish it. Chances are it'll ring true to me again later. So I'll just walk away from it. And I'll either sit on it for a week, a year, 6 years, go back. How do I feel about it now?
Right.
Hindsight can be 20/20 for that sort of thing.
Right.
You'll see things you didn't see before when you walk away from it.
And it can take on a totally different character.
Absolutely.
Right?
Depending on your headspace. But I think forcing it, you can almost hear that in the song.
Yeah.
I think as a listener, for me, I sometimes hear other songs and I hear other songwriters and the way they write things, and I'm thinking, well, that was a wasted line. Why did they shove that one in there? And maybe it was on purpose, or maybe they just didn't notice. It's not a judgment necessarily. It just makes me wonder, is that really what you mean?
And that's so interesting too, because as the listener, you're subjectively bringing your own shit to it.
Absolutely. Well, I think as listeners of music, that's what we're doing. Everyone's doing that. We're applying it to how we understand the world.
Right.
So it's all interpretive anyway.
And that lyric might just be incredibly deep to that person, right? That you thought was the throwaway.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Maybe that was completely intentional. I'm thinking, all right, well, okay.
Yeah. And that's going to be different for you, too, as a songwriter, right? Like, I write songs, but I'm mostly a fan, right? I'm not really a songwriter. I'm just a guy who sometimes writes songs. No. And so for me, when I'm listening, I'm really forgiving, like super forgiving, because I'm not as well versed in the craft. But I would imagine that if I was well versed in the craft, and I can't think of a good example. So podcasts, right? I try not to be overly critical of podcasts, but I do find myself like listening to somebody and being like, why the hell did you go that direction with the conversation?
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
And I'll do it with big podcasts too, where I'm like, this motherfucker's got like 12 million listeners.
That's okay. I think, I know. I do the same thing with engineering. I'll be listening to records with Dave, and we're listening, and I'm like, God, what that fucking hi-hat is enormously loud, wide, why did they go this direction? So I think we all do that because, we all perceive this world in our own way. So.
Sure. Well, good. You make me feel better.
It's all subjective. It's just music. It's just art.
Can you speaking of art and music, can you walk me through that? Is it called I Find Love? Is it the name of the song?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I'm glad you like that one.
I love it.
That's great. A lot of people call it the toilet song.
Why do they call it the toilet? Oh, because you said something about finding love in toilets?
Yeah, and we talk about doing blow off the back of toilets.
Yeah,
and finding love in that scenario.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Yeah, there's love everywhere, man.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. It's about finding that love and gratitude for whatever situation you're in or whatever situation you're viewing. There's beauty there.
Yeah.
In all of it. And I had to talk about, it's burned down in the ashes. It's in the bottom of the barrel. It's on the back of the toilet. Tie it up in laces. It's in the hookers on the street. Buying the drugs on the corner. Whatever. There's beauty there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've bought drugs, and I've
Right.
hug my dealer and say, "Hey man, how are your kids?
Right.
I love you, mean it." I mean, people don't see that part of it. In any interaction with a human, whether it's illegal or not, that doesn't mean it's void of love.
That's such a great point.
So.
Just because society, or because specifically a governmental entity assigns some sort of value to it that might be a negative value, doesn't mean that there isn't love in that moment. I fucking love that.
Well, and I think the general population would think, well, you're doing something illegal. There's no love there.
Oh my God. Oh, now we're getting real heavy, because then you could talk about the way that we treated gay people forever, and the way that we treated people of color. We still treat people of color forever.
Man, you either act out of fear, or you act out of love.
Yeah. Damn. You think it's that dichotomous? Fear and love?
I think it can be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
There's gotta be shades there, though, right? I mean, there's gotta be, even in a frightful moment, or if you're acting out of fear, there's got to be part of...
Punching someone in the mouth is acting out of fear. You're afraid of some sort of reaction you've had or are going to experience.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like, giving someone a hug, or, giving your granola bar you had in your car for 3 weeks to the guy that's down on the side of the road. I mean, there's fear and there's love. And it's either you're afraid to roll down that window because you're afraid they might take something from you.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be because you don't have anything to give, or that you're selfish or whatever. I mean, but I think there's a fear-based thing going on there, right? When we respond to situations.
Right.
Fear or love. I mean, it doesn't have to be that dichotomous. I see what you're saying, but it's, in the general terms, I think you could categorize most reactions in either one, right?
Yeah, I can't think of an example where your hug example, I suppose you could fearfully hold on to someone. You could be afraid and react out of fear for that comfort of a hug, maybe, or to diffuse a situation.
Yeah.
But there's an element of love in that. So, yeah, I mean, so the act that ostensibly is a love act could be very well actually coming from a place of fear.
It's all intention, and I guess we only know.
Sure.
We only know.
Yeah.
One of my most favorite pieces of music ever in a Jackson Browne song is "I Don't Know About Anyone But Me." And that's one of my favorite pieces. It's just that one line. It's just, I don't know about anyone but me. And so intention, man, yeah.
But you're also, and if you know you, then you're ahead of the game compared to a lot of people too. I think it's so important to try to get there. I feel like that's a constant, right? That's a constant.
Yeah, well, that's why it's a journey. There is no destination, man.
This is how we talk at Suwannee.
Right?
Yeah. I just feel it's not the real world out here.
No.
This is a magical place where you can talk about fear and love and dichotomy.
Yeah, dichotomy, bro.
And
I find love in all the wrong places. Well, according to society.
You don't have to pay the bills out here.
I paid my bills before I came, just so I didn't forget.
That's smart. Did I Find Love, was that something that you'd worked on for a while, or did that just come out of you? Do you remember writing that one?
Oh, that was a 10-minute.
Really?
Yeah, I took my mom on the porch and I said, hey, Mom, I got this song. And I played it for her real quick, and it didn't have the bridge yet.
Yeah.
And, my mom raised me to be very open for the most part. So talking about drugs in front of my mother isn't something that's unusual in my house.
That's great.
Yeah, so she's super cool. So I remember playing it for her and her just being like, I love it. I'm like, great. Went inside, wrote the verse, or the bridge, which is just, love isn't always ribbons and bows. Love isn't always a card and a rose. And, love is everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, no, it was a 10-minute, 15-minute write. It was really quick. I mean, I don't even know where it came from, really.
Right.
Sometimes it's just
there, right? Yeah, or you're just plucking it out of somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a lot of characters in that particular song, or it feels like, or is that a current of one character's observations?
Well, I would think that. I mean, I'm the first verse is having a conversation, presumably with a male or opposite of my sexual preference, saying, how does it first go? Like, what's the first line of that damn song? It's weird when you're not playing it.
That is interesting. Should have brought a guitar.
Yeah, I should have brought a guitar. What's the first line? I got a little crazy. I got lazy. I let you catch up to my heels and you cracked my seal. So tell me, do you want to know more about me? Because you want to know what makes my heart beat fast. Let's get dirty. Pour another glass. Let's go. Because I'm going to tell you where I find love.
Wow.
And so it's a conversation, presumably assuming the person I'm talking to thinks it's just very shallow and maybe skin deep. What gets me going, where I find love. Love is not you putting a ring on my finger. You're not going to like woo me into. There's love in everything that I do, and if you don't see that, you can't hang. Is basically kind of the feeling that it's much more. You want to crack the seal. You're going to really talk about what love is.
Yeah.
And affection and caring for someone. Here you go. This is what I think.
Yeah.
And that's kind of basically what it is. It's in a nutshell.
I like the way you ended that. You just gave us all this really heavy shit, and then you're like, and that's basically.
It is. I mean, it's pretty simple though. It's just saying,
I know.
It's just saying that it's
simple, but
it's not a common conversation you'd have with a chick at the bar.
But right. Well, when I was single, it was a common conversation I tried to engage in with chicks at bars.
I do have blonde hair, by the way.
And I didn't always find that conversation to be to my advantage in that particular moment when I was my end game was not necessarily furthered by that line of conversation. But when it was, it usually lasted for a lot longer than than the other situations, of course.
Yeah. So that song is it's I haven't written anything else like it. But
wow.
Definitely fearless in my approach because I am talking about things that you would assume that I've done before.
Right.
And family members do hear those things, and that's one thing that it's just I try not to put those walls up.
It's interesting because you said you were conscientious of the fact that there were kids in the audience earlier.
That's one thing I will protect.
Yeah.
Now I will still write those songs.
Right.
But if there's someone sitting in the audience that's a child that probably doesn't need to have to worry about how to understand that topic. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, it's not that I'm afraid that I would hurt their ears. I don't want them thinking about it later going, what does that really mean? Because they don't need to worry about that kind of stuff yet.
Yeah.
Kids need to play.
Yeah, it's such an interesting balance because you don't also, I feel like, want to totally shelter kids. It's cool that you had that relationship with your mother where you could be open and that she raised you to be open about those things so that you're not later in life going, well, wait a minute, I didn't know all this shit existed and that people were this way.
Right.
I feel like that's a thing that I wrestled with for a long time was that my parents were amazing and they were really good about not exposing me to stuff until I was ready for it. But consequently, when I got away from home and I saw all this stuff, I was like, I didn't know any of this existed.
Right.
I don't know how to process this.
Yeah.
And fear, not love. I reacted out of fear for sure.
Yeah.
So finding that balance for people, especially for young people.
I'm not a parent. I'm not a mom. And I don't ever intend to be a mom. Mm-hmm. But I also feel as a songwriter and a performer on a stage in a live setting, it is my responsibility to play songs and convey these songs to the best of my ability so that they're understood, right? Sometimes I talk about them beforehand. Mm-hmm. And that is my opportunity to say what I need to say about it. When they're listening to it on a record, say a child is hearing one of my songs on a record, well then, if they take it to mom or dad and they say, what does this mean? Well, that's on them. That's kind of the fearless approach that you're saying these words and you're putting them out into the world, and it's not always going to be perceived the way you'd hope it would. Yeah. And that's the risk you take, right? That's kind of, I think, some of the veil that as songwriters we put up because we don't want to be misunderstood.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be held in a negative light because something was perceived the wrong way. It's like, well, I didn't really mean it like that.
Yeah.
Well, this is how I perceived it, so this is how I understood it to be true. So as a live performer, when there's a child in the audience, I definitely pick songs because I write some songs that are talking about fucking the guy next door.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's very much sexual.
Yeah.
And I do write about sex. I do write about infidelity and those things.
Yeah.
And so depending on the words, because you can fudge stuff, right? When there's kids in the audience, you can sing a song that's like they're probably not going to get it anyway. So I'm pretty safe here.
Right.
You know, it's like those innuendos in kids movies.
Yeah.
You don't get it till you're older. But there's some things that are pretty blatant that I will not play if there's babies.
Yeah. You made me think about on record. That's a great point. There is a certain amount of like your responsibility's done. You made the art. You put it out there. That's not your job anymore.
It's the scary part when you let go of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then it's just floating in the wind.
You have to,
well,
though,
I
right?
hope it lands on the right tree. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Do you get in your head about that at all, or do you just let it go?
You know, I think about it, but it's part of the beast that is writing songs and playing them for other people.
Right. Right.
I mean, it's kind of like you choosing a tank top and your nipples are showing. You're like, well, they're either going to freak out or not, you know. It's just kind of walking around, you know. I mean, that's a really funny analogy, but, you know, honestly, you put on something to express yourself or whatever you're doing, and you're like, well, I hope they like it. It's kind of the same thing for a song for me. It's just, you know, it's a little deeper because I'm talking. You're getting a little piece of the inside.
And you're expressing yourself.
You're expressing yourself.
Something deep down in there rather than just, you know, more physical.
Right.
Not that fashion can't be something deeper as well. That's not what I mean. A wardrobe choice certainly can be
a lot of people, you know, but a lot of people are the first few minutes of meeting you, that first impression, you know, it's sometimes the first line of the song will make people go, yeah, I don't want to hear the rest of that shit.
Yeah.
Or turn that up a little bit.
That's interesting, especially. Do you think about that when you write? Do you think about the fact that in a digital world and we get little 30-second clips or whatever on iTunes that someone is making a judgment at the beginning of the song?
I like to come out swinging with most stuff I write. I like to come out swinging.
Hell yeah.
I do. I like to put my weight in it. Yeah.
I love that.
I do. Because for me as a listener, I'm jaded in the same way. I mean, I listen to music and sometimes I'll hear the first few lines and I'm like, I'm like, well, it's kind of like eating really bad cornbread. You keep taking a bite and you keep hoping the next bite's going to be better and it's not. I don't know why I'm eating it. It's kind of how I feel when anyway, some artists that I hear on the radio, they're like, wow, I've been listening to this entire song and I can't stand this band. Why am I, you know?
Yeah.
It's funny the way my brain works. But.
Well, that kind of circles back to what you said though about not wanting wasted lines.
Yeah.
Right. So like, why put that out there? If it's not any good, just don't put it out there.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess back in the sort of major label days, artists didn't have that luxury. Maybe they had to keep cranking out whatever they wanted to crank out.
Well, what do they say? It takes your whole life to write your first record.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you get just a few months or a year on every other one.
Yeah.
It's hard to follow up that first good one, you know.
Right.
So, especially under pressure with the label, which I know nothing about. I've never been signed, so.
Right.
You know, I have had the privilege of being able to write at my leisure.
It seems like the way to do it. Yeah. It seems like the only way to do it,
Yeah, I
right?
would think so. You would want something organic and real. Well, let it happen that way.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be particularly fulfilling to just keep cranking them out. I mean, and it's, you know, I guess if you were on some enormous level and you were making a bunch of money, you might be able to turn off your
You know, I've thought about that very thing. It's like, well, if I ever did make a good chunk, I wouldn't mind just holing up, having a little studio in my basement and just writing songs.
Yeah.
And I'd probably write a whole lot more.
Yeah.
But, you know, I spend 25 hours a week behind a guitar. You know, I play a lot. And so sometimes when I go home, I don't want to play.
Oh, interesting.
It gets me jaded on, you know, that circumstance. It's just,
God, that is the tough thing about trying to make a career out of art.
Yeah.
You know, like I've got a day job, and so this is something that this is purely artistic expression for me.
Yeah.
And if I want to sit down and write, it's purely joy for me. If I want to work on one of these shows, it's purely joy for me. I don't depend on it at all. You know, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I love this so much, man. I wish that this could be something that I was doing all the time, but I don't know how that would change the character of the show, and then also how that would change my own life.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's like when your hobby becomes your job, you got to find a new hobby. You know.
What are your hobbies?
Oh, what are my hobbies? I clean.
That's how you keep from getting bored?
I have Jack Russells at home.
Ah!
And I adore them. And I rode horses for 17 years, but I don't do that anymore. I do like to paint. I haven't painted in a while, but yeah, I had a bread company for a while. I baked bread
Oh, wow.
for a while and sold at markets and stuff. So I really enjoy making bread.
Cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep. Yep. Handmade bread. So that's, I don't know, hobbies. I like to fish. I like to camp. I like to be outside.
Right. All the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty regular.
What about...
She's not regular.
Yeah, I don't.
She ain't right, but she ain't regular either.
I don't think that anybody listening to this thinks you're regular by this point. We're already 30 minutes into the conversation. Nobody thinks you're regular at this point.
Have we even covered anything? I feel like we're talking a bunch of bullshit here about love and fear, and
That's how we do it.
we've got flowers painted on the sides of our heads by now.
Yeah, that's pretty much how we do it.
That's how we do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I usually finish up asking what you're consuming. What are you listening to?
What am I consuming? Well, see,
Yeah.
today, sir, I had
We can talk
Omnitoxic.
We can talk about that too. But I just mean like music. What are you listening to? What are you reading? That kind of
I
stuff.
just discovered Matt Corby this
don't know Matt
past
Corby.
week. He's an Australian. And if Sam Cooke, Jeff Buckley, and D'Angelo had a baby,
No.
dude.
Get out of here.
Dude. This guy, it's been a long time. It's been a long time that I put on headphones and just said, shuffle this playlist for yoga jams, because I like to do yoga. And I was working on some BMI entries for work, whatever. And this voice came on. Didn't even look at I just hit shuffle. And this voice came on, and I sat back in my bed against my pillow, against the wall, and I was just like, I couldn't breathe. Like, I felt like my eyes welling up, and I'm thinking, holy shit, I haven't heard a voice like that in so long. That really just, I'm talking, turned the key.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really, really, really heavy. And I sent it to him. I'm like, dude, I found this guy. Dave, you need to listen to him. But you're probably going to be exhausted, because it is exhausting.
Really?
Oh, my gosh. A magical voice.
What's his name again?
Matt Corby.
Matt Corby.
Instrumentalist, too. The kid plays, he's like 24.
That always blows my mind.
Yeah. His voice. I'm telling you, dude, it's one of the best out there right now by far.
I can't even process that when someone that young. Like
You'll hear. I'm telling
when Leon
you.
Bridges put that first record out, he was like 19 or something. I was like, this isn't real.
right?
This person's not
I know.
real.
All the young people that come out with these badass, like, prodigy, just
like, how did you have enough life experience to be able to I just don't get it.
It pisses me off. Like, this is bullshit. Here I am, 32, and I don't know.
I was just listening to D'Angelo the other day. I was listening to Black Messiah, and I hadn't listened to it in forever. And I don't know, somebody mentioned it, and I just was like, man, why isn't this the only thing I listen to? You know?
Dude, we have D'Angelo days where I'm like, we gotta go back to Brown Sugar. Come on.
Oh, it's so sexy, and it's so soulful, and it just makes me want to do all the good things.
The pocket is so deep. They're late. I mean, I love it. I love it. That Untitled stuff too.
Oh my God.
Oof. It kills me. Yeah. So this kid, Matt Corby, is who I was listening to.
All right.
Whoa.
Okay. I'm gonna check that out.
And he's gorgeous.
I would
I
imagine.
just kind of want to punch him in the mouth a little bit.
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. Yeah, really,
that's
really
amazing.
good. But no, I mean, as far as songwriters, I'm still studying the old stuff. That you know, it's rare for me to find something new, and that's why I kind of brought him up, because I haven't found anything new recently that really moved me. Because I'm still listening to Sam Cooke Nightbeat, you know.
Sure.
I'm still listening to Greg Brown and you know, I Love It and all these guys, you know.
This is the fourth time in the last 5 interviews that I've done that someone mentioned Sam Cooke, which says a lot.
Dude, I love him.
Yeah.
I love him.
It's kind of wild. Like, recently, I've been doing this for several years. Recently, for whatever reason, maybe it's just the people I've been talking to. I don't know.
That's where I learned all those vocal blues scales that I throw over weird chord structures are all Sam Cooke derived. Oh yeah.
When you're listening to Sam Cooke, are you going, okay, I'm gonna rip that off. I want to do that. I want to learn from that, or is it just naturally happening?
It's weird. I don't actually physically think that I'm logging what I just heard. I have the weird capability to hear a song one time and remember it forever.
Oh wow.
Not to a T lyrically, but musically, it's burned.
Interesting.
So I find these little spots, of where he does these cool blues scales. They were just, they're not supposed to be there, and then all of a sudden he's singing this weird blues scale over this structure, and for some reason I can just sometimes apply that if I hear something that's like, oh, it triggers my mind to think of that one song, and it's like, okay, well, I'll just paint it like that real quick.
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't actually, while I'm hearing something, going, oh shit, I need to learn that. I'm
Right.
Like, back it up.
Right.
It's just everything I hear is slowly
like
teaching everything I do.
Blessing and a curse if you were listening to some shitty music and that got burned in there. Does that happen too? Bad songs or like songs that are kind of silly?
Well, I think there's something to learn from every bit of music out there. As a musician, there is something to absorb. I don't think there's ever an empty listening moment for me when it comes to music. When I'm listening to it, there's something.
Wow.
There's something, teaching in my brain, new pathways for whatever, is going on. The curse with music for me is that when I listen to something, it's like my mom. When I try to explain to her, Mom, do you hear this hi-hat? Do you hear this way, this? And she's like, I don't even know which part you're talking about. I can't really. I'm like, okay, do you hear this part? And I'll have to sing it to her individually. I'm like, that's this instrument.
Uh-huh.
She can't tell the difference. She hears a song in its entirety. She hears the song. She doesn't hear the nuts and bolts of it.
Right.
And for me, every time I hear a song, I'm like, ooh, dude, you like that snare sound, dude? It sounds like Paper Bag. I love that shit,
Mm-hmm.
But that's the difference, I'm listening to every little piece of it. And so there's something. It might not be the song as a whole. It might not even be lyric. It might just be a tone that I'm like, ooh, what's that?
Yeah.
How'd they do that? You
right.
know?
That is wonderful. What about lessons like so you're picking that up when you're listening to records. What about from people like Verlin Thompson, who have you been working with him specifically? Like, have you written with him or anything?
No.
Okay.
No. Frank and I wrote some stuff.
Okay.
Which Frank writes a lot with
Verlin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about, though, people that you are collaborating with? What about shows that you're going to, or like experiences that you're having watching other performers? Are you picking up nuggets there, or have you learned specific lessons there?
Most recently, I had this conversation with Frank Serio yesterday about Verlin specifically.
Yeah.
He's the only artist that I have heard that will sing a lyric, and then the feeling. Okay, so you've received the lyric, you've received the information in your brain, and you're saying, okay, I understand this story. Yeah, I'm feeling where that is, and then suddenly he'll follow up that lyric with a guitar lick that suddenly goes, oh, that's what that line just meant.
Oh, wow.
But you don't feel it until he plays that lick afterward. And it's just like, oh, all right. So usually the lyric and the feeling come simultaneously when you're hearing something, right? It moves something in you.
Yeah.
That's not how it is for me when I hear Verlin.
Yeah.
He's giving me the information, and I'm already starting to decide how I'm going to feel about it.
Yeah.
He flips it upside down the minute he plays the lick afterward.
That's amazing.
It just absolutely makes me go, whoa. All right, here's the analogy. You go to drink a clear liquid in your cup, you think it's water, and it's Sprite, and your brain goes, whoa, that's not water. That's what Verlin does to me when he plays songs.
Yeah, or you go, oh, cool, tequila.
Right.
Yeah.
But in any case, it's always a surprise.
Yeah.
Because it's not what I thought I would feel.
Yeah.
But it's almost like you're forced to feel that. But it's through his playing that I really get the emotional side of what he just said.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so that's something I've just recently learned from watching his performances more often and really studying what he's doing. Is just, I hear the lyric, I'm like, yeah, damn. And then that playing follows, and it makes me sit back.
Right.
I start breathing shallow. I forget. It makes me dizzy.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So that's something I would like to learn how to do.
I'm sure that Verlin, if you asked him, I mean, he was episode 2 of the show, and he just got so deep, and what an amazing person.
Yeah. Oh
that
my
guy
gosh,
is.
sweetheart of a guy.
Just an amazing individual.
We met a long time ago in Juliet, Georgia.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Saw a little show he did up Picking on the Porch. It was very intimate. It was just like this, no plugins, just him and a guitar. We're all sitting around, and somehow I got called out, and he put his guitar in my hands, and that was the first time we met, and played him a song, and that was pretty fun.
Wow. Yeah.
I was probably maybe 21, 22.
Oh my goodness. So you've known him for quite some time then.
Yeah. I guess 10 years. We just recently reconnected, you know. I did my thing, and he's been busy doing Verlin. And, But we just recently reconnected, and that's kind of how I landed right here, is really through Verlin.
Yeah.
So, come on. Come play.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, sweetheart of a guy.
Yeah.
He is. He's definitely one of those saints. It's funny. Last time I saw him play was in a church. He said, "I just don't know about playing in this church. You know, I'm such a heathen." And I'm thinking, "You're a heathen,
right?
You're a heathen. This motherfucker's caving in when I walk."
That guy's a saint, man.
He did spend a lot of time with Guy Clark. So
true.
There is that.
That is true. You know, it's funny the way he talks about those days. I always kind of want to be like, "Come on, man, really give me the good stuff."
No, that's why he looks so good. He was over there driving the bus, being clean, putting that lotion on it, drinking that water.
Yeah.
Oh,
man, that's great.
Funny. Yeah.
Well, Abby, thank you so much.
Oh, pleasure's all mine. That was fun.
This was fantastic.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Hope we didn't go way too far out.
That's what we do. I'm so glad you went there. That's
Cool,
how we
man.
do this.
Right
Yeah.
on.
I mean, the best ones are the ones where we get lost and just go deep and forget the mics are on, you know. And I felt like that during the
I can't fit it. It's too big. The muff's too big.
Take the afro.
Yeah. It's like Macy Gray in my mouth. Can we end the podcast like that?
Scene.
Mama tells me that we were born at home there neath the orange trees. We all wait in vegetable scale. It's a story that most don't believe.
Abby Owens, y'all, thank you so much, Abby. Thank you all for listening. What an just absolutely hilarious, wonderful conversation. Follow Abby on social media for her tour dates and other updates. She also streams most of her performances on Facebook Live, and it's always worth your time. She's so good. The tone that she gets through the guitar, like I said during the show, just blows my mind, and she has an incredible voice and writes these great songs. So check her out on social media so you can follow everything that's going on with Abby. The song that you heard at the beginning of this episode was the title track, Indian Town, from the record that Jason Isbell produced. You know, we didn't actually talk about Isbell at all during the conversation. I don't know how conscious that was on my part because I really just wanted to talk about Abby. But off mic, we talked quite a bit about the making of that record and her relationship with Jason and how he came to produce that record. So maybe one of these days I'll have Abby on the show again and we might talk about that process. But hopefully by then she's got a new album. Huge big thanks also to Frank Serio, who was mentioned during the episode. And if you listen to this show, then you know Frank whether you realize it or not. He's mentioned in episode 2 with Verlin Thompson. Go back and listen to it if you haven't heard it before, or re-listen if you're a fan of the show and you've checked it out. Frank is a bright light, and he's responsible for bringing Abby to my attention in the first place and then for getting us in touch. So thank you so much, Frank. Y'all, go on over to marinadepodcast.com. Lots of exciting things happening there. We've got website exclusive episodes. I'm about to release one with the great Rod Picott. You don't want to miss that. His new record is just incredible, and it comes out in July. We got to talk about that process. I also have booked another website exclusive episode with Megan Hayes. Her new record, Seen Enough Levers, is just punch you in the gut. It's so good. There's this like longing to her vocals, and it's full of excellent songs. So give it a listen, and go to meganhayes.com. Megan's Meghan, and then Hayes is Hayes, and see what she's got going on. Buy that record. It just came out. Can't say enough about it, y'all. Follow us on social media. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. If you really like what we're doing, go on over to Patreon, patreon.com/Marinade Podcast. We've got everything from a $2 tier to a $50 tier, and you can interact with the show in a deeper way. We've got t-shirts and hats and stickers, and then I also produce a Patreon-only show called Jason's Journey that gives kind of like the creative moments that shape my life. I tell old stories, and then I also tell sort of behind-the-scenes things about what's going on with the show, kind of a deeper way to interact with the Marinade with Jason Earle. So if you can swing it, we'd really appreciate it. If that's not really in your budget right now, totally understand. Just give us a like on your podcast app, rate us there, spread the word, tell a friend about the Marinade. That's probably the biggest way that you can help the show, is if you like what we're doing, tell somebody about it, send it to them, and spread the word that way. All right, y'all. It's time for What I'm Getting Down On, the segment of the show where I share the books, the films, the music that is inspiring me at the moment, whatever art I'm consuming. We just recorded with Erica Blinn. I had this really cool experience where I got to see Erica Blinn, our friend Hannah Harbor, who has been on the show, Thomas Wynn. The three of them played in the round, and the concept, it's called The Circle, and the concept is that Thomas, who's just this incredible musician, plays or sends out 6 songs to the 2 guests he's going to have, 6 cover songs that he wants them to learn, and each of them also sends 6 songs to each other. So you got 18 songs total that all 3 of them are learning, and then they don't practice or anything. They just show up and then play 2 sets of these songs. It's so cool. And then at the end they play another hour or so where they just swap their own songs in the round and tell stories. Well, it was Erica, Hannah, and Thomas, like I said. And before that performance last week, I got a chance to sit down with Erica Blinn, check out her record, check out all of her records, really. I can't say enough about Erica, but the most recent record is Better Than Gold. It came out last year. I absolutely love it. I mentioned Megan Hayes. I can't say enough about that one. Last episode, I talked about Rod Picot's new record, and I'm going to keep talking about it till it comes out, and then afterward, just Tell the Truth and Shame the Devil is the name of the album, and it's just so raw and honest and just authentic, right? So just a fantastic album, and I can't say enough about it. Last episode, I talked about what I was reading, but I didn't really mention it because I couldn't get into it. And it's The Hero's Journey, which is like a series of interviews, basically, or conversations with Joseph Campbell, the writer and philosopher. And, you know, it's one of those books that, like, people have mentioned and recommended for so long. And for whatever reason, I just hadn't picked it up. And so finally I got it from the library. And I really had a hard time. The reason why last episode I wasn't ready to give it any kind of endorsement, I wasn't really feeling it, was just because of the format. And I don't know what turned me off about that format. Maybe there's something about reading an interview that's a little bit different. And I think it's part of, interestingly enough, it's part of why I kind of went to the podcast format with interviews rather than the written format, which is what I had done for several years before I started this show. Because something gets lost when you're reading an interview versus if you're hearing it. And so it took me a while. It took me probably like 70 pages of slogging through it and just like picking out little nuggets. Because, I mean, he's just an incredibly smart guy and lives a fascinating life. So there are all these little nuggets that I was picking out, but it just wasn't flowing for me. And I almost put it down, and I'm glad I didn't, because now I'm starting to get to the deeper level, and now his words and his ideas are starting to impact me in a way that before it felt like a chore, if that makes any sense. And now it feels like, okay, we're in a good spot. So that's what I've been getting down on in terms of the music and the books that I've been reading. There's also a great article in The Atlantic that was an oral history of Trump's racism. And it's really cool because they pull people from both sides. They pull people that like have worked with him, who aren't necessarily against him. And I'm not sure that there's a true supporter in there anywhere, but it's, it's as fair as you can be to someone who's an avowed bigot, if that makes any sense. So that's a great article, the oral history of Trump's racism in The Atlantic. And other than that, I've just been really devouring Chernobyl again and the podcast. And I had a cool Twitter exchange with some fans of the show about it recently. And it's crazy how much this show is impacting people and how much we are looking inward and seeing what's happening with misinformation and just outright lies that can lead to such terrifying results if we're not careful. And if we're not fighting against it, I should say, really, much more than just being careful, but actually pushing back in meaningful ways. President Trump is going to be kicking off his re-election campaign here in Orlando. And for all of the Florida man kind of stereotypes about Florida, Orlando is a very progressive place. Incredibly progressive place. And I think the number I read was something like downtown Orlando, Hillary Clinton won like 72% of the vote or something in the area where Trump is going to be kicking off his re-election campaign. And I just want to encourage everybody that day in Orlando to go out and do something positive. I don't know if this is petty or not, but I went and signed up for free tickets to the rally, and then I'm just not going to use those tickets in hopes that there's at least 2 more seats that are empty in that arena in our fair city, because I want to draw as little attention to him as possible while also acknowledging the fact that this is the president of the United States who is running again and who I'm scared is probably going to win. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't fight back, and we shouldn't find meaningful and positive ways to resist. All right, on that happy note, thank you so much for listening, y'all. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to Abby and all the folks at Suwannee for setting this up, and Frank for getting us in touch. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Go out and create something. Cheers, y'all.